childcare, and even rent on apartments. Jeez, taxes could exceed 20%.
Sure, they figure that up to 80% of taxpayers will pay more taxes. Many, hundreds more. Seniors, they'll get hit even harder, but our big donors will cut a fat hog.
The ones getting butchered by Amendment 5 are most taxpayers. I'm voting no on 5.
Paid for by Missourians for fair taxation.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win election.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
No, he had been vetted. All of the things that have been stated, it was all out in the public. And people like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway.
Well, and now apparently they're going to try to do the Kamala Harris switcheroo, wheels off the wagon on the Graham Plattner bus. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We're going to cover and talk about that and so much more today. Chris, there's trouble in what is Maine? The wooded state? What are they?
The Pine Tree State, they call it.
The Pine Tree State?
Pine Tree State, yeah.
Trouble up north in mainland.
Yeah, and everybody, but apparently the Democratic voters saw this disaster happening in the rearview mirror. I mean, this guy has so much baggage, but he was saying all the populist slogans, and the voters actually voted him in over the retiring Maine governor. You know, this makes you think, whatever happened to Believe Women? You know, there was even a hashtag for it. They pilloried President Trump and a bunch of Republicans over allegations from women for sexual assault. But with this guy, they seem to have overlooked it and turned their head and decided he was their man, and this is a disaster.
They all completely forgot what most of them did or tried to do to now Justice Brett Kavanaugh during his hearings. And they brought this on themselves. I mean, the warning signs were there from the early days. All the evidence was there. Scott Jennings there from CNN roasting his fellow panelists, saying, you all were defending him until about 5 minutes ago. They literally were on the Sunday show saying, he's our guy, he's our man. And Chris, the really disgusting part is it wasn't enough that the first or second woman came out, because they were conservative women, and so they could not be believed. There was no Me Too there. It was only when the third woman came out, who happens to be a Democrat, that suddenly they were like, oh, well, I guess now we have to get rid of this guy.
And we know with these type of stories, once one person comes out, they all come out of the woodwork. And if Graham Plattner doesn't leave this race, and it's looking that he apparently will, I would guess, Tim, that there's probably 3, 4, 5 more women waiting up to accuse him of sexual allegations. As you said, the rats are leaving the sinking ship. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Ruben Gallego, and Ro Khanna, they have all rescinded their endorsements. The Democratic senatorial campaign community and the Senate Majority PAC, they said they are no longer supporting his campaign. So, Tim, you and I have been in politics for a long time. You know the old saying, money is the mother's milk of politics. I don't see how this guy runs a campaign without any major donors heading his way.
Yeah, you're right. If he does bizarrely stay in the race, he'll be doing it all alone. Yeah. He'll be doing it all by himself, and that will likely be a huge loss in the Democrat column. I think it was always going to be hard to take out Susan Collins. Whatever you think about Susan Collins and where she is on various Republican issues, she has been a Republican who has managed to win in Maine, and I thought she would beat Graham Plattner. Now, if he stays in the race, I think she will slaughter him electorally. So they've got a tough decision to make. And Chris, wouldn't this be hilarious? The Party of Democracy will, for the second time in 3 years, be guilty of flipping out one candidate for another without a single vote being cast for them.
And this is one that you can't hardly blame them for not flipping this guy out. He will lose in a landslide if he stays on the ballot, which most political prognosticators say that he will not. I think what he's doing right now, Tim, is he knows that he has the leverage behind him right now to choose his successor. He has to get out of the race by next Monday in order for him to remove the ballot. So he has been saying to friends, and his allies are saying that they want a replacement to be just as progressive as he is. So I think he is holding out to get some type of assurances that they'll nominate another progressive guy like he does before he will drop out. And he's got a little leverage. I mean, he's got till Monday to drop out. They know they can't keep him on the ballot. So I think we're going to see the same style of candidate as Graham Plattner if and when he drops out.
Yeah, Newsmax reporting right now on the monitors in our studio, he is expected to exit the Maine U.S. Senate race. The guy probably never should have been in the Senate race. He's probably not eligible to run for garbage collector, but that was the guy the Democrats wanted because he was their spitting image of a man's man who was going to take it to the Democrats. I think the Babylon Bee summed it up really well today. Rape allegations mar reputation of local Nazi. Yeah, this guy was a problem from the very beginning, but as we've said, Democrats usually don't let those kind of things get in their way. None of them will probably issue any mea culpas. The media, which was a willing accessory to all this, will not issue any apologies. It's just a shame. Look, Republicans have had these problems before too, but it seems that the Republican is given zero grace during any such allegations, while as the Democrats, they drag this out for months. And so that's the latest story from Maine today.
Some of the names being floated around is former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson, epidemiologist Nirav Shah, Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, a former congressional candidate, Jordan Wood. They're also looking at the former Maine State Senate president, but who they are really wanting apparently is retiring Democratic Representative Jared Golden, but he is retiring this year. He doesn't want anything to do with Congress, so he may be a tough sell to get into the race, but that's who they really want to focus on. But, Graham Plattner, presumably out of the race is just any time, any day, any minute now.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of elections, it's noteworthy to note that if you are a Missouri voter, a lot of folks in our audience are, you have 1 month to vote until the August 4th elections. I know there's an early voting period that will be upon us before we know it. We have 2 weeks, I believe, of no excuse absentee, but Election Day is Tuesday, August the 4th. We're going to speak with David Stokes about some of the items that might be on your ballot in August, including a possible tax change. Not the big one we've been talking about. That's on everybody's ballot, Amendment 5. But there is a local tax change on the ballot in Hazelwood. There's a lot of other issues that we'll be confronting as well. 28 days until Missouri's 2026 primary.
Yeah, and this is really bad news for the Democrats in this Senate race because they are of course, looking to retake the Senate, and retaking the Senate obviously goes to remain first. There was a Fox News poll last week, Tim, that said that Senator John Ossoff from Georgia, he has a double-digit lead over his opponent. In Iowa, Josh Turek has a 4-point lead over Republican Representative Ashley Henson. Democratic quiche Lance Bottoms, who was running for governor in Georgia. Remember, she used to be in the Biden administration and was the mayor of Atlanta. She leads Republican Rick Jackson by 5 points. And in Iowa, Rod Sanders has a 9-point lead over Republican Zach Land. So the polling was looking pretty good for them in these Senate races, but this Graham Plattner bombshell may blow all of that up.
Yeah, I would never count Susan Collins out. The polling on Susan Collins the last several cycles has been epically wrong. They always have her behind, and then she always manages to easily win on election day.
Because in the last poll, they were actually statistically tied, Graham Plattner and Collins.
Yeah, anytime Collins is tied or within a couple points behind, I don't count her out because that's pretty much where she's been The polling never seems to give her proper due, and she always tends to win easily on Election Day. So we'll continue to cover that race and more. David Stokes coming up at 4:25 to talk about the ballot items here in the Heartland in Missouri on August the 4th. In addition, we had some other news that we need to catch you up to speed on regarding some of the 4th of July items that we mentioned, the Independence Day weekend with that curfew in downtown St. Louis, and Kirkwood, the city of Kirkwood, dealing with a budget oversight. Usually that's a misnomer for a giant mistake, but David Stokes will give us the information on that and more at 4:25 today.
Yeah, and Chris's Corner at 4:45, we're going to talk about why are voters revolting against incumbents on both the left and right. I touched on this a little bit last week. I'm going to do an extended commentary on that at 4:45.
Speaker stump speech today, 5:07, kicking off the 5 o'clock hour. America, love it or leave it. You have a lot of folks that are always threatening to leave the country. You might be surprised as to some of the latest polling, if you believe it, as to where Americans are right now on their love of country and whether or not they want to stay here. Now, will anybody ever act on that belief? I'll tell you all about it at 5:07, the speaker's stump speech. America, love it or leave it. Dr. Randy Tobler, the good doctor joining us today, one of the hardest working guys in radio. He's the host of the Randy Tobler Show every Saturday here at News Talk STL. He also helps run the morning show called Wake Up Missouri. That is weekdays, 93.9 The Eagle in Columbia. They simulcast that through Jefferson City and down into Springfield. So he'll be talking to us about all the big news headlines of the day, including the Plattner bombshell and more. Dr. Randy Tobler at 5:25. 5:45, what do we have on tap today?
The Big 80. That's all I'm going to leave you with. The Big 80. So keep 80 in mind for the end of the show, 5:45.
Joey V, producer Joey V here today as well.
He is not 80.
He is not the Big 80.
The first thing it made me think of is when you have a calculator and you type 8008, and that spells boob. So it's probably something to do with that, you
Joey,
pervert.
Get your mind
You're
out of the
immature.
gutter.
It's you, man. You put that in my mind.
Joey, are you going to see a movie this week that you will review on Friday, or have you already done that?
I saw the movie last Thursday. I've had a lot of time to think about it. It's about an orgy. So if you guys are willing to hear a movie about an orgy, I think you should tune in Friday at 5:45.
So you talk about boobs, and then you say you're reviewing an orgy movie on Friday. Your mind is in the gutter.
We're going to lose sponsors if we keep it up. But it's called The Invite, and it's about a four-way between very famous people. You got Penelope Cruz, you got Ed Norton, Seth Rogen, and, of course, the very last person, Olivia Wilde, who also directed it. And it is a dramatized movie, just four people in an apartment talking about the orgy they want to have. So I'll let you know if it's any good.
I can't imagine you can get 2 hours of content out of that.
Well, look, the Pfizer building has lost its erection, and people have been talking about that all day on the news.
Yeah, this is big news. As if New York City wasn't dealing with enough problems, they have a major landmark, a major building, a Midtown Manhattan high-rise building. It was evacuated this morning after authorities said it was at risk of collapsing. Chris, Joey, the 37-story building, that's quite a few stories, at 235 East 42nd Street was sagging between the 21st and the 26th floors. Not a good experience to have if you happen to ride up that elevator this morning and you probably tried to get out of there as quickly as possible. Continual movement has been detected in this very unstable Manhattan high-rise.
And I can imagine our president, who is over in Turkey at the NATO summit, once he gets back to the United States, I'm sure he'll have an opinion on this. He'll say, I didn't build that building. If I would have, it would have been perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, probably
That's my
so.
terrible Trump impersonation.
They should have put a helipad on top. That would have fixed it. And then the helicopter would pick it up and straighten it out.
And Joey was right. It was not now, but it was once the corporate headquarters for Pfizer, for the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, no one laughed at that, so hopefully the audience I'm picturing in my mind really had fun with that. Chris, not
Pfizer
a single
does.
smirk.
Pfizer does make ED drugs.
They do.
I think what was the most popular one, the first one? I think they make that one.
You're trying to act like you don't know the
I
name of
don't know.
Viagra. I don't know Viagra.
I just know the generic name.
Oh, what's Cialis? Who knows what that is?
And
I think they make what's the first one you said again?
What is Viagra? Are we playing Jeopardy here?
Yeah,
Jeopardy.
Viagra.
Okay.
Jeopardy.
They make Viagra.
For those unfamiliar with the city of New York, this address, 235 East 42nd, that is right near Grand Central Terminal. Very, very busy part of the city. and would be really catastrophic if that building I don't know what you do when you have 5 floors of a high-rise that are sagging. I mean, do you have to carefully take the whole thing down? I don't know what you do with this.
I wonder how old the building is. If it's really old, I think you just demolish it and start over.
Yeah, probably so. And you let Trump build it in its place. Yeah,
his sons, because the president is not involved in business.
Indeed. They've actually evacuated 9 buildings around the unstable building, and there's 3 major thoroughfares. Today is not a day to travel into Manhattan. That is for sure. Epic disaster.
I got to ask my brother-in-law about that because his architectural firm is in Manhattan near Grand Central Station. So I got to ask him, is he close to that? I got to ask him about what they should do. He's an architect.
Yeah, it's probably right. I bet he knows all. I bet he knows all about this, and you can actually see this in some of the photos. Holy smokes! Yeah, you can see how the building. The interior of it, you can see it from the exterior that it is literally sagging. So, yikes.
The Leaning Tower of Pfizer.
Yeah, we don't want that indeed. Oh, my goodness. 421 in the Heartland. Hey, last little news item we have. Chris, we're giving stuff away.
Yes.
For our 5-year
beautiful T-shirt
anniversary. We are. They are gorgeous T-shirts. You want one. You know it. Just go to newstalkstl.com and enter. That's all you got to do. newstalkstl.com and enter. You'll receive a limited edition, this year only, of the America 250 News Talk STL T-shirt. We model them all the time. You've probably seen them on the cameras if you watch us on any of the streaming devices. You don't have to do anything, no contests or long rules or anything. Just submit your name. If you say something nice about Joey V, if there's an option for that, you might have a better chance of winning.
And congratulations to Scotty, Kevin, and Ben. I've already emailed them that they're winners, and hopefully we get to see them here, and I can take a picture and prove that they did win their shirt. I don't know if we're going to make them strip in the lobby in front of Michelle or they go to the bathroom first. We'll try and get some pictures of some brave soldiers here.
Is this our super fan, Scotty?
It is super fan, Scotty.
Hey, congratulations, Scotty.
Congratulations to our Navy chief, indeed. All right, Chris, let's head to our first break. It's 4:22. When we come back, we're going to have an extended conversation with David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy. We got lots to speak about with him, including items on the ballot in barely 28 days. Things going on downtown, and what's up with the city of Kirkwood and their, quote, budget oversight. All next. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Turning a little bit hotter as we head into Wednesday. A low of 72, a high of 89. Light winds, just a 10% chance for a spot shower or thunder shower in the afternoon to about mid-evening. Most stay dry, though. And then Thursday, a little hotter and humid, 93 for the high. A 20% chance for a shower or storm during the afternoon to early evening. But that is really going to ramp up late Thursday evening and into the overnight. So Thursday night, Friday morning are best bet for more widespread and potentially some heavy scattered thunderstorms. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
If you have a tree that you think is dead, it might not be dead. Why don't you try to save it first with Roots Plus? Roots Plus can help you save your tree and keep your cash. RootsPlusLLC.com. That's RootsPlusLLC.com or 314-440-3662.
It's a pretty simple concept.
It is clear to me.
Let me make this clear.
Big events. Your news and your opinions.
We're going to get out there and be heard.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Our voices are never heard in the media. We, the people, will always find a way.
And it's about time that we start putting up or shutting up.
Yeah, and you should come. You should listen to many voices.
101.9 and 94.1.
Their phone lines have surely been burning up.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
In just 2 days, St. Louis police took nearly 4 dozen kids, 17 and under, into custody for violating the new summer curfew. Parents and guardians had to pick up their kids and received citations.
8 juveniles were found in possession of illegal fireworks, and 1 juvenile was arrested for petty larceny. The curfew remains in effect for downtown and downtown west until September 8th, and enforcement efforts will continue throughout the summer.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute.
In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spike. It was spiked.
I knew there's a spike somewhere in there.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
And David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, joins us fresh off his vacation from Eastern Tennessee. Are you well rested and tan, David?
I am well rested. I don't really tan, Chris. I believe you know that. I succeeded in avoiding the worst of the sunburns, so that was pretty good.
Well, David, I'm going to assume that you were out of the city during the 4th of July, so you missed all of the quote-unquote fireworks and all of the detentions of the juveniles downtown. The mayor's curfew seemed to have worked on Saturday night.
And it's great and good for the mayor, and more importantly, good for the cops who enforced it. And hopefully this message will get out that this sort of late-night mayhem is not going to be tolerated, and they're doing the things they can do. And if that includes a curfew through after Labor Day, then good for the city. I mean, this type of mayhem we've seen, you see it all over the country now, of course, but we've seen it here in Six Flags on opening day. It doesn't just happen in the city of St. Louis. These team takeovers and the like. These are really seriously impacting the quality of life of people who want to go downtown, want to go to Six Flags, want to go elsewhere. So good for the police for cracking down on it. Mm-hmm. And I hope it continues, and it sounds like it's going to, which is great.
David, any concerns from you at all about a 9 p.m. curfew, or is this something that is long overdue?
And should the county institute a curfew?
There you go. Yeah.
Well, if the county could do it if it's necessary. I mean, if events like we had at Six Flags become more routine and not just a one-off thing that Six Flags can make its own policy changes towards, if that becomes common at malls and things like that, then sure, go ahead and do it. I mean, if it's a curfew directed at people under 18, I mean, to my understanding, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, you don't have these sort of constitutional concerns for young people. You can tell them to get off the streets and get home and have every right to do so. So if it's sort of things we saw, again, at Six Flags, if that becomes a thing happening around St. Louis County frequently, then I would have no problem with some level of county curfew aimed at teenagers and preteens and the like.
Speaking with David Stokes, he is the Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. David, I have seen the stories in the Post-Dispatch regarding what's going on in Kirkwood, but I will admit I have not read them or followed this too closely. For others like me that haven't, what is going on?
Well, what's going on is that, the Post-Dispatch is covering this pretty tightly and aggressively, and good for them, I'd say. The problem is that Kirkwood is the only municipality in St. Louis County that operates its own water system and electric system. They don't generate their own electricity or treat their own water anymore. They buy it wholesale and resell it. But they shouldn't do that. There's a reason all the other cities in St. Louis County that had done that got out of it, whether that was Eureka 4 years or so ago or Frontenac and Webster Groves, not Frontenac, Florissant and Webster Groves 25 years ago. It's beyond the scale of a city to do this. So they need to stop doing this. Kirkwood needs to privatize its water and electric divisions. And why this is in the news is that in recent years, and this goes back a little bit, I think current leadership is getting all the blame when the blame goes back far. It's like the city water division. These problems didn't happen overnight. These are a long time coming. Kirkwood, repairs to the Kirkwood water distribution system and the Kirkwood electric distribution system, they were incredibly expensive, as those things can be. And they've spent an enormous amount of money over budget on repairing both of those systems over the past several years. And it's led to rate hikes for both electricity and water in Kirkwood, a loss of reserves, and other financial troubles. The solution is to privatize these two systems, to put them out for bid. And yes, it seems obvious that Ameren and Missouri American, which serve the entire surrounding region, would be the ones to win that bid, but that doesn't mean you have to make the bid only for them. If somebody else can come in and do a better bid, great. But it's time for Kirkwood to get out of the water and electric business, to make money for its taxpayers for these two systems, and to stop this just sort of slow motion disaster that's been the management of its electric system and its water system over the past several years. And again, predating the current leadership here, they should have, when Webster Groves and Florissant privatized their water divisions in 2000, 2001, Kirkwood should have done it at that exact same time. So that was the first mistake they made. It's time to correct it and privatize both of these things now.
David, if you were, we talk a lot about this subject in relation to many different municipalities and regions in and around the city and county of St. Louis. David, if you were designing a region from scratch, if we could start all over again, would there be things, what would you advise as to the proper roles of government, county and local government? What should they be handling in general versus what should they not be trying to handle or run?
Well, this is obviously a huge question. I'll be on for the next 2 hours with you today.
Sorry.
I love it. But this is what we have. I have this whole series of papers at showmeinstitute.org called the Free Market Municipal Series that talks about how to run cities in a limited government, free market-oriented way. We talk about limited government a lot at the national and state level, but what does it mean to have limited government at the municipal level? And one of the things, to just go on this subject of utilities, I mean, these types of things that maybe it made sense a while back for cities to create their Kirkwood electric system, 75 years ago or when it was created, or to run their own trash trucks when nobody else could do it. You need to get cities out of these businesses that the private sector can handle. And it doesn't mean that the city should necessarily turn it over to the private sector and not pay no attention to it. I mean, with electric and water, they'd still be closely regulated by the Public Service Commission. For cities like where Chris and I live, University City, which still has its trash department and operates a municipal trash system, that should privatize that system and turn that over to the private sector, but continue to oversee it on behalf of taxpayers. So cities need to stop doing things the private sector could do. There was Stephen Goldsmith, the old mayor of Indianapolis. He had what he called the Yellow Pages test. If he could go into so it's sort of dating this from your younger people might not even remember the Yellow Pages. But if he could go into the Yellow Pages and find companies doing a certain thing, then he was like, well, why is the city of Indianapolis doing it? Why are we competing with the private sector? Let's get out of this. When Mayor Giuliani became mayor of New York in the early 90s, he privatized scores of different subjects. I mean, there was so much low-hanging fruit. New York City had city-owned radio stations and TV stations and on and on. he just got it to the private sector, and that was one of the things that led to the great renaissance of New York City under Mayor Giuliani. So cities need to focus on the key functions: public safety, good basic local infrastructure, streets and sidewalks, and the basic city administration management of a city, and get out of the bigger things that the private sector should do. That's my long-winded answer to your question.
David, one thing that seems to have the residents of Kirkwood pretty upset regarding this utility debacle is that the city publicly misrepresented the departures of two officials. They said that these couple of folks resigned when they actually paid them a separation agreement. Is this a scandal waiting to happen?
Maybe I've been following government too long and following business too. This is pretty standard stuff, but I like government to err on the side of openness. I like honesty and all, but it's just a scandal that they let two people go and allowed them to claim that they resigned and paid separation. I hate all the public sector separation agreements, but this is no worse than many others that we could point to. The numbers in here were not especially egregious. Look what Francis Howell did for the school administrator who'd only worked for them for a few days before they let him go and paid him a year's salary. So is this a scandal in Kirkwood? From what I know of it, what's publicly available now in the Post, I don't think it's a true scandal. People have a right to be disappointed, and people have a right to judge the elected officials on that. But the Post is calling for their resignations, and from what I know now, I wouldn't necessarily go that far. This is pretty common stuff when people are let go in the world, public sector and private, to let them say they resigned and sort of go on. Kirkwood deserves credit for firing them. And yeah, should they have said it was a firing instead of a resignation? I guess it was. But in my mind, does it rise to the level of a scandal demanding a wholesale change? I don't think it does, at least from what I know now.
David, we mentioned in our opening segment that today marks the 4-week advance date until the August 4th primary election here in Missouri. And, of course, we've been focused on the big ballot propositions. There's 4 big ballot propositions, and we've been heavily focused on Amendment 4 to protect our Constitution and Amendment 5 to overhaul our system of taxation and hopefully deliver a better one. But apparently there's some local tax changes as well being proposed on the ballot. And I understand that you know one that is going to be on the August ballot in the city of Hazelwood. What is Hazelwood up to, and what is this tax change all about?
Well, it's the school district of Hazelwood, just to give you a minor change there. And they're looking to, in light of various changes to their property tax revenues, such as the senior tax freeze in St. Louis County, they're looking to make a relatively modest change that I think is a positive one in their property tax rate. And voters do have to approve it. And this is not only going to be a Hazelwood School District thing. They might be the only one on the ballot this August, but you're going to see a lot of school districts doing this in the coming year or two. And what they're doing is they're asking voters to give them approval to lower their debt service fund by 30 cents and raise their operating fund by a similar amount. So the total tax rate stays exactly the same, and the total tax rate is just over $5 for $100 of assessed valuation. So I'm going to call it $5. So they want to make, about 30 cents less in the debt fund and 30 cents more in the operating fund to give them more money to just manage the day-to-day operations of the schools and pay the teachers and pay the bus drivers and all that. And I think this is a good switch. And without trying to get too much into the weeds, you want to let people know that those operating funds for any city, county, school district, whatever, those are subject to Hancock rollbacks when your assessments go up. So if your residential assessment goes up, the operating funds roll back. But debt service funds are exempt from that rollback. So what it basically comes down to is if a school district like Hazelwood raises its operating fund and reduces its debt service fund, that's actually, in a small way, a better move for taxpayers. More of the tax rate will be subject to tax rate rollbacks as home assessments or commercial assessments increase, and that's good for taxpayers. So that's why I think, provided it's truly necessary, and school districts of the like are putting themselves into, debt and deficit situations, I think this is a good move by Hazelwood School District and the other ones that we're likely to see in the near future.
David, before we let you go, are there any articles or issues you'd like to direct us to on showmeinstitute.org?
My colleague Avery Frank just had a really nice op-ed on data centers published in the Kansas City Star. And you can see this on the Show Me Institute's Facebook page. It's probably not up on our website yet. We will give the Star a week or two to own it for themselves. But I hope people check it out at the Kansas City Star. It's a really good piece about why data centers are good for Missouri, but also some of the policy changes we can make to improve the data center policy and improve the way they work for all Missourians, such as not giving them tax incentives, which are completely unnecessary. So I hope people check out Avery's piece on data centers, and we all know what a huge topic that is in all of Missouri right now, and I hope people check that out. I think they'll really like it.
And any events?
We have no events coming up in St. Louis in the near future. We'll have a few more in the fall, and I hope your listeners sign up for notification at showmeinstitute.org, but nothing coming up in the near future.
And that is David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, and on X, David C. Stokes. David, thank you so much for your time, and have a great week.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Tim. Talk to you guys soon.
441, Chris's Corner. Up next, why are voters revolting against incumbents on both the left and right? We'll dig into that next on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Turning a little bit hotter as we head into Wednesday. A low of 72, a high of 89. Light winds, just a 10% chance for a spot shower or thunder shower in the afternoon to about mid-evening. Most stay dry, though. And then Thursday, a little hotter and humid, 93 for the high. A 20% chance for a shower storm during the afternoon to early evening. But that is really going to ramp up late Thursday evening and into the overnight. So Thursday night, Friday morning are best bet for more widespread and potentially some heavy scattered thunderstorms. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female, millennial, Trump supporter. I listen to it every day. Seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, let me ask you, is 2026 the year that you finally buy that home? Well, if it is, Royal Banks, Missouri is the kind of place you want on your side. Their mortgage team, they don't just hand you a rate and send you on your way. They actually walk you through the whole process. And that matters because there's no call centers, there's no out-of-town decision maker. You're dealing with local people who know this market and are working for you. Now, maybe you're already in your home. Maybe you've been thinking about making it better. Maybe you're looking at a backyard upgrade, a patio, or finally taking that trip you've been putting off. That's where a Royal Banks, Missouri home equity line of credit comes in. It gives you the flexibility to use the value you've already built in your home to actually enjoy your life a little more. It's simple, it's convenient, and it gives you peace of mind. Give Royal Banks a call today at 314-212-1500 or visit royalbanksofmo.com to get started. Royal Banks, Missouri, investing in our communities one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Let's take a break.
Good idea.
Hey, Tom, what are you doing on that Amendment 4?
You know, we fought for our freedom and rights. I'm not giving them away without a fight.
4 takes them?
That's exactly what 4 does. For over 100 years, Missouri voters have used our constitutional power to act when the politicians refused. I'll be darned if I'm voting to pass on less freedom and power to my kids.
And doesn't 4 also kill majority rule?
Yup. Creates minority rule, or just 5% of the most liberal statewide voters in one Missouri congressional district that block any citizen-led reform, making it nearly impossible to pass common-sense conservative citizen ballot measures.
That's crazy town stuff.
And we've needed our citizen ballot measure power to pass some big conservative stuff, like outlawing tax hikes without voter approval, lobbyist reforms, and term limits for career politicians.
No way I'm letting a tiny fraction of liberals derail our conservative power. I've no on Amendment 4.
Hard no on 4.
Pay 4 buttons or inch per governance.
Hungry at midnight? Craving a home-cooked breakfast at noon? At Gingham's Homestyle Restaurant, we've got ya 24 hours a day. For 35 years, folks have been coming back for our famous fried chicken, bone-in catfish, country fried steak, slow-cooked pot roast, scratch-made pancakes, or a slice of homemade pie. Daily specials and a loyalty rewards program that actually pays off. There's always a reason to come back to Gingham's Restaurant in St. Charles. Skip the wait. Join our wait list on Yelp or at ginghamsrestaurant.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story, covering 2 of Pope John's trips to the USA.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Chris's Corner, brought to you by Timothy's Restaurant at 12710 Olive in Creve Coeur. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Some heading home to the family, some are looking to get hurt. Some going down to the store wearing trouble on their shirt.
2024. As Democrats work tirelessly to stop Donald Trump, Cori Bush attacked Kamala Harris, calling her a fascist.
I'm seeing fascism right now, you know, with a Joe Biden presidency and a Vice President Harris presidency.
And Bush opposed the Biden-Harris agenda again and again, voting against critical infrastructure and manufacturing jobs in Missouri. Why would we ever send Cori Bush back to Congress? New Democrat majority is responsible for the content of this ad.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Tim, that is not an ad from a Republican organization. That ad is actually from the New Democrat Majority, which is an independent expenditure arm of the New Democrat Coalition. They have spent $1 million on that ad attacking Cori Bush. Why are voters revolting against incumbents on both the left and right? As America celebrates its 250th birthday, one political trend is impossible to ignore. Voters are in a rebellious mood, and they're taking it out on incumbents. Not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just in Washington, everywhere. Nationally, statewide, and even in small-town city council races, Americans seem increasingly willing to throw out the people already in power. Some would argue this anti-incumbent wave began the moment Donald Trump descended his golden elevator in Trump Tower in 2015 and announced his candidacy for president. There's certainly a case to be made for that. Trump's rise wasn't merely another presidential campaign. It was a direct challenge to the Republican establishment itself. Think about who he defeated. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, Rand Paul. Governors, senators, movement conservatives, and politicians many believe represented the future of the Republican Party. I know because I was there. I worked on Senator Ted Cruz's campaign in 3 states during the 2016 primary, and I was convinced he was destined for the nomination. He was the Tea Party favorite. He had the grassroots energy. He had movement conservatives behind him. The momentum seemed to be on his side until it wasn't. Looking back, perhaps we were all missing the bigger story. Voters weren't simply looking for a more conservative politician. They were looking for someone who would upend the system itself. Trump represented disruption, and disruption won. The anti-establishment impulse on the right didn't end with Trump's first victory. It only accelerated. In 2024, Republican voters once again rejected the party's perceived future in favor of its insurgent present, as Trump easily dispatched Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. More recently, Trump's endorsements has become almost synonymous with challenging incumbents inside the Republican Party. We've watched sitting members of Congress lose primaries to Trump-backed candidates. Others have decided not to test their political fortunes at all. Take Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina. Rather than face the prospect of a bruising primary battle against a Trump-backed challenger, Tillis announced he would retire. Think about that for a moment. For decades, incumbency was one of the strongest assets in politics. Now, in some Republican primaries, incumbency can feel more like a liability. But here's what's fascinating. This isn't just a Republican phenomenon. Democrats are experiencing their own anti-incumbent uprising. Many trace it back to 2018 when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stunned the political world by defeating Congressman Joe Crowley, one of the most powerful Democrats in Washington and a man many believed that was destined to become Speaker of the House. At the time, it seemed like an isolated upset. It wasn't. It was a warning shot. Today, that same progressive energy is reshaping Democratic politics. We've seen it in New York, where socialist and progressive candidates have increasingly challenged establishment Democrats. We've seen it in Colorado, where a gubernatorial primary has turned into a contest featuring an incumbent attorney general who was initially viewed as a long shot, taking on a sitting United States senator who has served 3 terms. Experience no longer guarantees deference. Seniority no longer guarantees loyalty. Increasingly, incumbency simply means ownership of the status quo, and voters on both sides appear fed up with the status quo. Perhaps nowhere is that more evident than at the local level. Consider Festus, Missouri. 4 city council members lost their seats after voting in favor of a controversial data center project. Recall efforts are underway against the 2 remaining council members who supported the proposal, and 1 resigned before voters could even have the opportunity to remove him. Municipal elections used to be sleepy affairs, not anymore. People are paying attention, they're organizing, they're voting, and they're sending a message. But why is this happening? Why are voters across the ideological spectrum turning against elected officials who, historically speaking, would have enjoyed all the advantages incumbency provides? Part of the answer may be a growing crisis of confidence in American institutions. A recent Reuters poll found that only 62% of Americans believe the United States will exist as a single country 250 years from now. Think about that. As we prepare to celebrate the semi-quincentennial, the greatest experiment in self-government in human history, nearly 4 in 10 Americans believe the country itself may not survive another 2.5 centuries. Even more troubling, 2/3 of respondents said American democracy is in danger of falling. That includes 85% of Democrats and fully half of Republicans. Those are staggering numbers. When citizens lose confidence in institutions, they stop rewarding experience, they stop trusting seniority, they stop believing that the people in charge deserve another term. Instead, they look for outsiders, disruptors, reformers, people willing to shake things up. Sometimes that impulse is healthy. Political systems need accountability. Incumbents shouldn't feel entitled to office. But there's also a danger in perpetual revolt. Governments becomes difficult when every election is viewed as an opportunity for a political cleansing. Institutions weaken when stability itself becomes suspect, and democracy struggle when voters decide that no one deserves a second chance. As America approaches its 250th birthday, perhaps the most important political question isn't whether incumbents continue to lose. It's why so many Americans on the left and on the right seem convinced that the people currently in charge have stopped listening. Until elected officials answer that question, the anti-incumbent wave sweeping the nation is likely to continue, because in 2026, voters don't seem particularly interested in preserving the status quo. They appear determined to replace it. And that is Chris's Corner. And I ask you to follow me on Twitter at Chris_Arps or X, and on Facebook, Christopher Arps Politics.
Yeah, and incumbency used to be an incredibly powerful shield, especially on the federal level, where it was like 99% of all incumbents always got reelected. The problem that voters may eventually realize is that if you have just a knee-jerk reaction to an incumbent, you could end up with someone worse in office.
Like Graham Pladner?
Exactly. Exactly. If you just vote for the other person, the other guy, the other gal, and if you just are like, well, there's 2 people running, I don't like the incumbent, so I'm going to vote for the other person. What if the other person is a wolf in sheep's clothing?
Yeah.
What if they're just telling you what you want to hear, and then they get in there and so I guess my point is you still need to do your research. I understand the concept of throw the bums out. I'm not a fan of term limits, but I'm also not a fan of people making an entire career out of being in elected office, because that's not what the founders didn't want to replace one monarchy with another.
Exactly.
And finally, you're so correct as to what happened to our institutions over the last few years because of COVID, right? COVID damaged so many of our beliefs because we don't know what to believe anymore. And so we distrust people in power. All of us do, even those of us who have been in political power and still work in politics. And social media has been great for politics and I think also very damaging.
Do you see this changing anytime soon, or is this something we're going to see for the next 10 or 15 years, that throw the bums out? We're tired of the incumbents.
I think we're in a very rocky roller coaster kind of situation. And so our system is set up generally to avoid massive swings one way or the other because, look, our Senate terms are 6 years long, right? You're not going to throw all the bums out in the U.S. Senate all at once because they have 6-year terms and they're all staggered. So that's going to be a much slower turnover. But I do think it's dangerous for people to just automatically decide, like in a house, right? Most houses are up every 2 years. U.S., Missouri, many other states. If you just decide, I'm just going to replace one legislature with another, you could be asking for a whole nother set of problems with people who may not have any idea what they're doing once they get
and
into
I could
the
hear
Capitol.
the critics now listening to us. Tim, you're just part of the establishment. You and Chris are part of the establishment, and you want the establishment to prevail. That's all you're saying.
I am very happy to get rid of some people. I'm very happy to have some incumbents go away. There's some people in the Missouri House and Senate right now that have primaries, and I hope they lose them. It doesn't mean that I want to throw everyone out. You know what I mean? I don't think you should take a sledgehammer to anything that you can cure surgically, I guess is my point.
Did you watch the soccer game last night?
What a bummer.
It was. I ended up watching it when it was 2-1. And 5-10 minutes later, they scored another goal, and then at the end, of course, the 4-1. I'm not a big soccer fan, but I'm pro USA, of course. I was really bummed last night.
I feel the same way. I agreed, not knowing much about soccer strategy and World Cup soccer and all that. I listened to the post-game analysis, and I agreed with what I just saw.
Yeah.
The U.S. team looked flat. They looked tentative. They looked hesitant. And, Chris, 2 of the goals were completely accidental.
Yeah.
It was a bad night for Team USA.
And I don't follow soccer too closely, but when it got down to like 7 or 8 minutes to go, I was like, hey, if you're in the middle of the field, just shoot it in. You never know. You know, they were doing too much passing and everything. I'm like, just kick it in. You make it lucky. But anyway, USA put up a good fight. They should be very proud of themselves. They represented America very well. All right, 5:07, we'll have the Speaker's Stump Speech.
America, love it or leave it.
And then we'll have our weekly conversation with the good doctor, Dr. Randy Tobler. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk, STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Chris Arps here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. I love Capriotti's, and you will too. Visit Capriotti's now at 2 locations on Manchester, McKnight, and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
You feel it every time you check out. Prices up, paychecks stretched, families squeezed. That's why Ann Wagner's fighting to get government off your back and out of your way. Wagner passed the largest tax cut in American history, expanded child tax credits, ended taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security. And Wagner is working to lower costs so families keep more of their hard-earned money. But Ann Wagner knows delivering for Missouri means more than just protecting their wallets. It means protecting our streets as well. That's why Wagner fought to secure our border, deport dangerous illegal aliens, partner with law enforcement, and put predators behind bars and off our streets so our neighborhoods and communities stay safe. Because real effective leadership protects what matters most: your money, your family, your safety. Ann Wagner for Congress.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Hunters, we are about 2 months away from turkey season. Are you ready? Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here, and if you stop by and visit my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, you will be. Whistle Pig is stocked with decoys from Avian X and DSD, clothing from Bandit and First Light, calls from Rolling Thunder and Woodhaven, plus Whistle Pig has those hard-to-find tungsten shells from Apex and Migra. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Just go to whistlepigoutdoors.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. More endorsements are being pulled for embattled Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner.
Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders is the latest and most notable lawmaker to pull support for Maine Democratic Senate nominee Graham Plattner following an allegation of sexual assault.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me.
In a video message, Plattner says any allegation of non-consensual behavior is false. The allegation is the latest in a string of controversies Plattner has faced and so far weathered since the oyster farmer and Marine veteran entered the race. Maine Governor Janet Mills earlier dropped out of the Democratic race for Senate. I'm Ed Donahue.
While President Trump is in Turkey for the NATO summit, he's still making announcements on his social media page about domestic issues. Correspondent Laura Winters reports.
President Trump taking to his Truth Social page with a big economic announcement involving the car industry. The president writing, Toyota is moving from Mexico to the United States. Texas, a really big deal. Tariffs at work. Toyota is making a $3.6 billion investment expanding its manufacturing campus in San Antonio. The main focus, bringing production of the Tacoma midsize pickup truck from Mexico back here to the U.S. 2,000 new jobs expected to be created. Laura Winters reporting.
President Trump announced the U.S. will lift sanctions on Turkey that were imposed after Ankara bought a Russian missile defense system. This decision could ease Turkey's re-entry into the U.S. F-35 fighter jet program. NATO is showcasing military projects worth billions aiming to satisfy Trump. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 130 points, the Nasdaq dropped 302, the S&P lower by 33. More at townhall.com.
With things moving fast to resolve the situation in the Middle East, the headlines may change, but the fundamentals haven't. America's debt continues to climb, and uncertainty still hangs over the global economy. That's why investors continue turning to one asset that has stood the test of time: physical gold and silver. For generations, gold has been viewed as a safe haven asset during periods of geopolitical tension and market volatility. That's why Advantage Gold wants to send you a free gold investment guide valued at $49, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's acclaimed book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, when you call 800-900-8000. Discover why central banks are buying gold, why many Americans are diversifying with precious metals, and how a tax and penalty-free rollover into physical gold and silver may fit into your retirement strategy. Don't wait until the next crisis dominates the headlines. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 right now. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, turning a little bit hotter as we head into Wednesday. A low of 72, a high of 89, light winds, just a 10% chance for a spot shower or thunder shower in the afternoon to about mid-evening. Most stay dry, though. And then Thursday, a little hotter and humid, 93 for the high. A 20% chance for a shower or storm during the afternoon to early evening, but that is really going to ramp up late Thursday evening and into the overnight. So Thursday night, Friday morning are best bet for more widespread and potentially some heavy scattered thunderstorms. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Why has Steph's Pizza become the place to go for St. Louis-style pizza, appetizers, salads, and pastas? One taste and you'll know. Dine in, pick up, delivery, even DoorDash. Locally owned and operated with legendary pizza and a new location in Lake St. Louis at 111 Palm Fort Trail, in St. Peters, St. Charles, and the original Stephanitas in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Steph's Pizza is proud to be part of the News Talk STL family. Check them out at stephspizza.com. And remember, tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
Hello, Kirk Hilsinger, Chairman of the Republican Party, City of St. Louis. We are urging everyone to get out and vote this August primary. We need your vote every election. We remind you to vote yes on Amendment 4. Stop out-of-town money from being used to bypass your elected state legislators. And vote yes on Amendment 5. Tell businesses fleeing high-tax states like Illinois that Missouri is open for business and help lower our income and personal property taxes. Help us fight democratic socialism in its backyard by visiting stl-gop.com and donate, come to a meeting, or volunteer to help out.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I can tell you, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. Okay? I don't want him to waste his time answering that question because we're working very closely with Marco Rubio, a very famous man, great Secretary of State, and with Scott Bessent and with Pete and everybody else. We're going to be taking the sanctions off. It's time. We don't want to sanction friends. It's very simple. There's plenty of people we can sanction, and we are sanctioned. We don't want to sanction friends.
Lots of international news because Donald Trump, I believe, is in Turkey right now. And he was asked about sanctions, U.S. sanctions against Turkey. And Donald Trump, in sum and substance, said those sanctions will eventually be removed because, Chris, we don't sanction between friends. Maybe that's a good policy.
You know, Donald Trump and Turkey's President Erdogan are good friends. He said that's the reason why he is attending this NATO summit. If it wasn't for that, he wasn't going to attend. But we put sanctions on on Turkey because they are a NATO ally. And I've talked to Jim Talon and Steve Bucci about this, but they were like buying weapons from Russia, and we're kind of collaborating with them. So Biden put sanctions on them, but the president has a good relationship with them, so he's taking these sanctions off, and that opens up the sale of F-15 aircraft to Turkey.
There you go. And so Donald Trump over there doing what he does best, making deals all around the planet. Chris, another big international news headline of the day is the fact that Nigel Farage is resigning from the UK Parliament. And these words are English, but I'm not sure I understand what they mean because there's so much about parliamentary systems I'm not familiar with. The Reform UK leader, that's Nigel Farage, claims he is stepping down to face a, quote, people versus the establishment vote following scrutiny over a £5 million donor gift and an ongoing parliamentary standards investigation.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal because he is part of the right, and there were a lot of rumors of him being prime minister one day. And I did hear about the scandal. I think he took $5 million for something. It didn't sound like, I don't know, I don't remember all the details, but it didn't sound like that much of a big deal. But you know how in politics, If something gets started, they make a big row out of it and can force you your back against the wall. But that is huge news because, as I said, he was rumored to become a future prime minister.
Well, listen to this next sentence. There's so much about their system that is so confusing. So he's resigning from Parliament, but in the very same breath, he said that he's resigning to force something called a by-election, B-Y. It's a term of art, I guess, term of politics. To force a B-Y election, a by-election in his Clacton district, and that he would run in that election. So what does that do? I don't understand what that is for. What's that for?
Maybe he is resigning his parliamentary seat as a member of the Reform Party, and he is running as an independent. That's the only thing that I can surmise out of that.
We would need to get like Mark Sutherland on here to explain this to us, because Nigel Farage says, today I'm resigning as a member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, that's his district, thereby forcing a by-election, which will happen, I hope, in short order, and in which he will run. Yeah. So we need Mark Sutherland to come in and explain what the heck Nigel Farage is doing.
Yeah, it sounds like he is resigning his seat as a member of the Reform Party, and he's going to run again as an independent.
Yeah, so they have a very different system over there where they can force elections. Like, they don't really have an election calendar. They just kind of have elections whenever they feel like it. And so they can call for elections, they can force elections, and they have elections all the time. You know, they kind of like they change horses and parties a lot. So Nigel Farage apparently out of Parliament for now, but not out of politics. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Maybe when we talk to Steve Bucci on Thursday, he might be able to explain that to us as well. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is indeed a very busy Tuesday, 4 weeks from the primary election here in Missouri. Many states still have primary election days to go before the fall midterm, the big national midterm elections. We'll be covering all of them throughout this entire year because we are your election headquarters here at News Talk STL. We've got a big hour here with the Speaker Stump Speech coming up in a minute. America, love it or leave it. Then we're going to talk to Dr. Randy Tobler. He is the host of the Randy Tobler Show. We're going to talk to him about all this news, including the fact, Chris, that, Graham Plattner's lost one of his besties. Even Bernie Sanders is now calling for Graham Plattner to drop out of the main Senate race.
Yeah, I think he has no moral support now. Bernie Sanders was one of the first people to endorse him and was one of his biggest supporters. And when you lost Bernie, I think it's just about over. As I said, I think he's hanging on to try to choose his successor.
And it's going to be interesting to see who runs. It doesn't appear, maybe in Maine they're household names, but there's really no big names that have been mentioned because I guess the lady who was the former governor, who's 80-some-odd years old, it doesn't seem like she's interested, but they've got a bunch of other potential Democrats, progressives, probably some Democratic socialists who are all vying to take on Susan Collins in November.
Got some clarification on Nigel Farage's decision. It says he's doing this because he wants the voters, not Parliament or investigators, to decide whether he deserves to remain in office. He has framed the contest as the people versus the establishment while denying wrongdoing amid scrutiny over his financial disclosure. So he's resigning, and then he wants the people to elect him again to basically say, screw you, Parliament and investigators. The people want me.
Pretty interesting way that you can do that. In the United States of America, you'd have to wait like 2 years.
Yeah, you're done.
Know? Yeah, in the UK, you can apparently say, I want a straw poll right now, and in order to decide whether or not I'm going to continue my current career in Parliament. They call them MPs there.
Well, if he wins, it really strengthens him because it shows that he has the people in his district behind him. And I would think that this is also a move to try to tone down some of these investigations to say, why are you investigating a guy that the people love?
He is quite the fighter indeed. We'll keep an eye on that as well. All right, without further ado, how about we get to today's Speaker Stump Speech? America, love it or leave it.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
And in Maine, you have a candidate who says for the Senate that he is a communist. You have a candidate in Manhattan, Chevalier, who won her primary. She's heading to Congress, who wrote very favorably about Marxism. And then she deleted what she wrote. This is a terrifying trend inside the Democratic Party, and no one, not even Governor Shapiro, is strong enough to simply say no. We are not socialists. Socialists are the opposition to us. We will fight the socialists. Instead, they want to co-opt the socialists, put them in their big tent, make cozy with the socialists. Socialists need to be stopped.
Yeah, Ari Fleischer there, who's not known for a lot of bombastic pontificating, really kind of issuing the clarion call that, yesterday's Democratic Party is long gone, and today's Democratic Party are full of a bunch of anti-American, progressive, communist haters. And that's not just a Pollyannish statement. It appears to be very factual to the point where that's what they're calling themselves. They're calling themselves the Democratic Socialists of America. They don't like this country in its current form. The problem is they don't want to make the country better. They want to destroy the country. And then from the wreckage, they want to create something that is impossible to create, a socialist utopia on earth. Many people have tried. Look, I am not saying that people like Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Khrushchev, those weren't good people, but they were very smart people. They were conniving people. They were shrewd people. They were industrious people. Yes, they were despotic, tyrannical dictators, but nobody ever said they were dummies. And if people like that can't make socialism work, then I don't think the likes of dumb as a box of rocks, AOC, goofy Bernie Sanders, silly Elizabeth Warren, who thinks that she's half Native American, or others, they're not going to do it any better, and it's likely going to crash and fall much quicker and in much worse fashion. Look, throughout the ages, plenty of Americans have declared that America's best days are behind it. Exactly what these Democratic Socialists of America are doing right now. Going back to Senator John Randolph, in 1826, so this was on the 50th year anniversary of the United States of America's founding. This guy, I never heard of him before, he said, "The pure days of the Republic are gone. We're sliding rapidly into an era where power and patronage dictate our destiny." Well, he predicted the end of the United States of America as we knew it 50 years into its life, and he was wrong. Charles Francis Adams said on the centennial in 1876, "We cannot look back upon the past century without a feeling of shame at the corruption which now disgraces our public life." Don't these phrases sound very familiar to many of the things that people always seem to say in and around politics and public policy? Senator William Borah on July 4th, 1926, the sesquicentennial, he said, "We are celebrating our 150th year wrapped in a mantle of material luxury, but we are losing the very essence of the Republic." Well, the Republic carried on. And in 1976, former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan said, and on July 23rd of that year, the bicentennial, "The crux of the problem is that representative democracy as we know it in America is on the decline, and with it, the ability of the government to govern." So she predicted the end of the United States of America back in 1976. Well, we carried on for yet another 50 years. And this year, David Ignatius on July 2nd said, at 250 years old, America is a nation in late middle age, showing unmistakable signs of decline. So there have always been naysayers and nattering nabobs of negativity, and we're definitely seeing plenty of those in today's world. There's always these threats by the left to leave America, to depart from it. The Hollywood elites, right? They're famous for saying that we're not going to stay here if so-and-so gets elected. Some of them have left, but on the whole, very few of them. You know why? Because America is still the greatest country on the planet, and none of them would have the success anywhere else that they currently enjoy. Well, here's another interesting statistic. As the nation celebrates its 250th anniversary, according to the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, more and more evidence is piling up that Democrats have basically separated from most of the country on a broad range of questions, including patriotism, civic pride, and where America stands in the world. So although you always have those naysayers, although you always have those contrarians, it seems like the Democratic Party is cornering the market on them and pretty much has a stranglehold on the pessimism wing of today's United States of American citizens. A new poll of 1,000 adults, pretty good sample size, sponsored by North Carolina's Elon University, found that a majority of Democrats, 55%, said they would rather live outside the United States than remain here. I wonder how many of them have actually undertaken plans to pack up and leave. The Committee to Unleash Prosperity says in response, put us in the America love it or leave it camp. The most popular countries by far, named by those wanting to take the Mayor exit ramp, were Canada and the United Kingdom. Both of those countries are far more socialist in economics and far more restrictive of free speech because neither of them has a First Amendment. We are surprised that more of these disgruntled socialists don't want to give that workers' paradise, Cuba, a try. By contrast, in the same poll, only 10% of Americans said they would prefer to live abroad. The poll speaks to how the country is being increasingly polarized along partisan lines. Among Republicans, 68% said they felt proud about our country. 19% said they were grateful. But among Democrats, only 18% felt proud and 17% felt grateful. A total of 42%, almost half the sample, felt conflicted, frustrated, or disappointed. Something as basic as the American dream is now a major point of contention. 75% of Republicans agreed it remains attainable, the American dream does, for anyone who's willing to work hard, regardless of their circumstances. On the other hand, only 25% of Democrats agree with that statement. Is it because of Donald Trump? Probably partly, but is it also because of the fact that the Democratic Party has decided that they're going to cast their lot, not with the entrepreneuring, freedom and liberty movement that seems to be born as a passion in most Americans, but they're going to cast their lot with Big Daddy government and hope that he solves all of their problems. America, love it or leave it. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
Get out. If you don't like it here, get out. I know Madonna, she actually did move to Italy, I think, or somewhere, France, I think, a few years ago. But most of these celebrities that say they're going to move, they never do.
Or they move for a while, and then they go, I don't like paying 60% in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is no First Amendment here and a lot of the other protections. So a lot of them move back, after they go for a while. Is Rosie O'Donnell, is she still in Ireland or did she come back by now? I've lost track of her.
I think she's still in Ireland.
Not that I care, but she was one of the more famous ones who left. But like George Clooney threatened to leave, and he never did.
Yeah, he's got a nice house, though, in Italy.
He could probably go
one
over
of the nice islands out there.
Probably with a nice jet that takes him there, So, but I'll bet you his citizenship is still here on the home front.
Yeah.
So, they always threaten to leave. Most of them don't. I'd love to ask them, where are you going to go that you think is better, and why do you think that will be so?
Yeah.
No Donald Trump, I guess.
We're on the same wavelength there. No Donald Trump.
Who will they complain about next? Whoever the next Republican president is. 5:22 in the PM. We're going to bring a guy in who's always a glass half full guy. He's Dr. Randy Tobler. He's going to talk to us about the news coming out of Maine regarding Graham Plattner, any medical health news of the day that has come across our radar, and more when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Turning a little bit hotter as we head into Wednesday. A low of 72, a high of 89. Light winds, just a 10% chance for a spot shower or thunder shower in the afternoon to about mid-evening. Most stay dry, though. And then Thursday, a little hotter and humid, 93 for the high. A 20% chance for a shower storm during the afternoon to early evening. But that is really going to ramp up late Thursday evening and into the overnight. So Thursday night, Friday morning are best bet for more widespread and potentially some heavy scattered thunderstorms. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
There's a really cool thing at joneswater.com. They just, Everett Jones and the gang and the family just revamped the entire website. It's really cool. If you go to Jones Water right now, you can check immediately what's in your water in your area. St. Charles, Lincoln, Warren, Franklin, Jefferson, all the water results are at joneswater.com for those regions. You just enter your town, and it will come up. You can see what the hardness is, the contaminants, what it's doing to your skin, your pipes, your wallet. And then you can have the Jones Water folks out live and in person, and they'll test the actual water in your home for free. So you can kind of get a snapshot of that. Not meant to frighten you, just meant to educate you. What are you? Well, look, water is something that we should, and hopefully you all do, put into your body every day because it is the basic building block. It's the foundation of good health to drink at least a minimum of 8 glasses of water a day. I try to do that. Don't always succeed, but it's something that's always on my mind because I have a lot of Jones air and water products. I have the reverse osmosis tapper, and we have it here at the station. It provides an endless stream of clean, pure, reverse osmosis water. Takes out all those nasty contaminants that's in your water. We also have the whole home dehumidifier. Let me tell you, that thing is worth its weight in gold and then some. It's an extremely affordable device. It's not that large. It looks like a small window air conditioner. It sits in your lower level or in your basement by your HVAC, and you turn it on. You set the percentage of humidity that you want in your home, and then you leave it. And it has a little spigot that drains into the drain there, and it takes care of everything. Let me tell you, it makes the air in your home so much crisper and cleaner and less heavy, right, on those heavy Midwest humid days. And finally, the HTO system, the whole home water cleaning, purifying system. It's a double tank system. You know, it's a water softener, but it's also a purifier as well. And that's for all of your heavy-duty appliances and your showering and your bathrooms and all that kind of stuff. It makes the water so much better on your pipes, right? And will preserve them for so much longer ahead. So Jones Air and Water, it's your one-stop shop for all your air and water needs for your home, for your business, for your commercial or industrial facility. No location is too big or too small for Jones Air and Water to make it better. What are you putting into your body? Let Jones Air and Water provide the filters. So your system, your human system, is not being that filter. You want that stuff taken out before you ingest it or breathe it. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com.
To everyone who serves and sacrifices, this one's for you. Heroes Care is giving away 1,000 suits to our heroes. Active duty, retired, guard, or reserve, military, police, fire, or EMS, just show up with your ID and a suit is yours. That's Saturday, July 18th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Heroes Care store in Gravois Village Center, Jefferson County. For those who sacrifice every day, we simply want to say thank you. Details at heroescare.org. Heroes Care, honoring those who serve.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
For over 50 years, Di Gregorio's Italian Market has been serving up a taste of Italy right here in St. Louis. Family-owned and operated, nestled in the heart of the hill. From homemade sausage and meatballs to spadini, pizzas, pastas, and sauces, our wide variety of Italian specialties will transport your taste buds straight to Rome. For a truly authentic Italian shopping experience, visit your friends at Di Gregorio's. Shop local, shop Di Gregorio's Italian Market, where every bite tells a story.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
At least until I die. Damn if you do, damn if you
After a woman came forward in recent hours accusing Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner in a 2021 sexual assault, several top Democrats asking Plattner to get out of the race. And now we're hearing from Senator Bernie Sanders. He got on the phone to talk to Plattner today and asked Plattner to step aside. The new allegations made by Jenny Rassicoat, she's a 41-year-old woman who dated Plattner 5 years ago, claims he forced her to have sex.
He violated multiple layers of consent that night by coming into my home when I asked him not to, and by advancing on me when I told him not to.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work, the world of forensic medicine.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Dr. Randy Tobler joining us here, like he does most Tuesday afternoons. Doc, well, the surprises never end, but none of us are surprised, right? Haven't we been sounding the alarm bell of what a goober and a goon this guy is for months? While Elizabeth Warren said, Graham Plattner's her kind of man. She's not singing that song today, is she?
No, she sure isn't, and it sounds as though maybe John Fetterman in full hoodie regale may have visited Bernie Sanders' office, right? I mean, that's a pretty imposing scene. And I'm just kidding. I mean, I saw him with Laura Ingraham last night talking about, about how he was really embarrassed and how Bernie could do that. I don't know what these Democrats are thinking, Tim. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would go out on a limb and endorse a guy like this. There had to be some internal Oppo research that they know. I mean, that's what you hear about the political scene, but, it seems like there would have been some kind of clouds on the horizon, but I guess they are just so rabidly set on defeating anyone or anything within 6 degrees of separation from Donald Trump, that would be any Senate Republican, that they're just going to do that. And they're going to just sacrifice all their principles, denigrate their own brand, not only as individuals, but as a party. And now it's just coming back and boomeranging and really hitting them hard in the political face. But I'm not crying in my beer. I'm crying in my beer over that.
Dr. Tobler, the Iranians promised this week that they would halt any type of hostilities because they would be commemorating the funeral of their late leader, Khomeini. But we learned that they attacked 3 ships the past 24 hours. And the latest news is that the U.S. has revoked the temporary waiver that allowed Iran to sell oil. What's next?
Wow, that's great to hear. And I guess I'm hearing this evening that we've launched some, air strikes and missile attacks again on them. I've never seen such endless patience from a guy that is so used to getting things done. And as Mike Keogh likes to say, the speed of business, and I'm talking about Donald Trump here. I don't know where this thing is going, but I can't help but think that the over and over and over, every chapter looking like the previous one out of this book of Iranian deceit and misrepresentation of what they intend to do and following through on it, I can't help but think that it's going to take a crushing and extended blow, both economically, as you just said, by, after they got a little flavor of what it's like to maybe get some of those revenues back, take that away from them, kinetic action. And I've never seen such resilient and hardened people as this Iranian regime. It's amazing. I just wish that the Iranian people would look at this and could say, hey, we need to, even though we are going to suffer casualties, people in the neighborhoods, in the streets, in the boroughs, in the towns, we're going to have to take this country, because America can't do it with drones and missiles and airstrikes without taking out our infrastructure. And so we're going to have to do it ourselves. I hope those kind of encouragements are going on from the West, led by the United States, to tell the people that, look, we're not going to put boots on the ground. I don't think we are. You're going to have to do this, but I don't know. I'm concerned that if this thing continues to escalate or re-escalate over and over again, that it'll mean civilian infrastructure gets hit, even though it may be dual purpose. And at what point then does the entire nation begin to sour on the whole notion of reinventing that country? it's a really sticky situation.
Yeah, Doc, and despite all the naysayers over here who constantly defame America and put it down and complain about every little thing, maybe we should look at Iran and the fact that their people haven't risen up. Or Doc, when they did rise up last year and dared to demonstrate, they were slaughtered by the tens of thousands. So, Doc, the tyranny over there, it must really be astounding, right? Because they were merely they weren't even staging an uprising last year. They were simply demonstrating in the streets, and I guess everyone realized, well, that's a really fast way to lose your life.
Well, no, you're right, and I think you make a good point. That emphasizes just the inherent, ingrained, genetic, and I mean it culturally, evil that embodies that regime and anything connected to it, right? And I guess that makes the mission even tougher. And perhaps what it's going to take is a boots on the ground from the neighbors in the area there. When how much attack on their own airports and hotels and oil fields and refineries and so forth. How much of that can they take before they finally say, look, we're sending in the MITO, the Middle East Treaty Organization, call it what you will. We're going to go in and occupy this place and make it safe for these residents to take back their country. I mean, that's a complex thing to even comprehend. But you're right. I mean, it just I think doubles down on the point of just how evil and power hungry and greedy those the IRGC and the related military and I guess civilian authorities are. It's amazing.
Dr. Tobler, we have seen the Democratic Socialist wave sweep through in New York and in Colorado. For Chris's Corner today, I played an ad from a Democratic group slamming Cori Bush for some of her past comments. I want you to give a prediction. What's going to happen here in your hometown? Does Wesley Bell get swept in the DSA fervor by Cori Bush? Does she reclaim her seat?
We can only hope.
Not.
And I mean that seriously. I think that the only way that young people learn, and it's largely young people and or radicalized people politically, the only way they learn is by suffering the natural consequences of their actions. You know, when you tell your kid not to go out and skateboard without a helmet, and they end up scraping up their face and being embarrassed when they go into class because it really looks ugly. Oh, maybe I better wear a helmet, you know? I'm sorry, but I mean, I think some short-term pain in those communities when they realize that socialism doesn't work because you run out of other people's money because other people leave the area and they take their business away. I mean, I keep seeing just tragic news about how desperately, violent St. Louis is and how the city has just economic doldrums because of the leadership that people like Cori Bush and the people and the previous prosecutor there and others have. Maybe it's just people need to see more of that, and it finally will change things. Sometimes you don't change your stripes until you're in the valley, and I guess the people that are electing these folks, because they have a little hardship buying a home or whatever they're complaining about, or they don't like being pulled aside by the police officer if they're rioting or having a protest that's violent. Maybe they just need to understand that it can get worse, and that's called socialism. That's called radical progressivism. So, I mean, while it may sound like a radical idea to unseat Wesley Bell, maybe it's not a bad thing. A little short-term pain and long-term gain.
Yeah, but I live in the first district. Thanks, Don. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Oh. Look, I mean, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you, and I really do. But how's it working out with Wesley Bell there? There's not much changing because the culture of the people is not there behind him enough. You don't have enough people that believe in the philosophy of like moving things a little more to the center from the far left. And, they start to, maybe they'll just realize that you get enough of those people in Congress and things change even for the worse. They can get worse. I just don't think people understand that yet.
Randy, speaking of culture, isn't this a good time for those of us who don't want to destroy the United States of America, who don't want to end America at its 250th birthday, that actually like the country, that we understand the warts and the problems, and we're always striving for a more perfect union because we don't believe it is currently perfect, and we've got plenty of sins in our past that we've had to fix and atone for, but we still love the nation. Isn't it time for us? And Randy, I'm not talking about just the Republicans. I'm talking about the independents, maybe the few remaining John Fetterman Democrats that are out there, to kind of think about how we got to this point. Like Mondami and all these other socialists, they weren't just dropped off here overnight, right? They came from our universities. They came from our culture. They came from this attitude that, you should just immediately get everything that you want. And if you can't get it, you should just take it. You should ask government take it from those who have been makers and not takers. So maybe a good time to kind of reset and examine our culture writ large. What say you as to all that?
Boy, you're right. And I think it starts with, like you said, it starts with the educational system that at some point teaches people that those are somehow acceptable values in these United States of America. And again, I mean, it basically, I'm going to repeat what I just said. I think people are going to have to thank God that those districts are so already blue and guaranteed blue, where these people are either electing mayors like Mamdani or their representatives. And when they see that the people who have built the very ability for them to have that discussion about taking stuff from others because others have stuff, and when they realize that, hey, you don't really get to that position of sitting in the top penthouse on Madison Fifth Avenue. You don't live in the luxurious places where Bill and Hillary and Michelle and Barack live without having some sense of accomplishment on you. And I'm not talking about those people. I mean the people that live in those places, the big business people. And at some point they're going to begin to connect the dots that, hey, I can't be sitting in Starbucks, surfing on my computer all day, reading Marx and Lenin and Mamdani quotes and someday make it for myself. And guess what? Now the people that have made it and the people who I was shaking my fist at, guess what? They've gone because they said, I'm not going to be a part of this. And maybe they'll come around. But I don't know if it happens in a few months or a couple of years, or if it's going to take a generation to turn this around. It took a generation to basically go from the radical 60s to the prosperity of Reagan's 80s, or at least a half a generation, right? So I think we're looking at potentially a long haul here. The nation's going to have to suffer through a swing to the left. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. But again, I think we'll emerge probably more conservative, more first principles, and more idealistic in the proper constitutional declaration sense than even we are now. I mean, I've said it before. I'm not really. We talked about it today on the show. These Trump accounts really bother me. That is just not a conservative Republican thing. The accounts are, but not seeding them with $1,000 if you happen to be born between January 1st of 25 and December 31st of 28. I mean, what's that all about? We've sort of everyone's sort of lost our compass right now. I guess COVID sort of intervened and helped us lose our way a little bit too. But man, I'm just hoping we get back to realizing that when you depend on government to seed your Trump account or to make Walmart lower their prices on ground beef, or grab Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk's money because he's making it and you're not. All of those have the wrong underpinning, and that is depending on government to solve your problems.
Doc,
It never works.
you just stole my thunder because I was going to ask you, are you and Helene big Walmart shoppers? I want to get your thoughts on Walmart lowering their prices at the urging of President Trump.
I think there's a motive to this Walmart thing. I looked into it a little bit. They're going to lower the prices on the 73% lean beef, right? So that means there's 27%, if my math has it right, because I wasn't trained at Loma Linda University, that's 27% fat. So when you grill said extra fat meat, you're going to have to buy those Chinese-made water bottles to spray the flames that spring up.
Doc, you just have to rain on the parade.
There's a method to Walmart's madness. I'm telling you, there's a method there.
There has to be. Doc, thanks for everything, all the wit and wisdom, as always. Dr. Randy Tobler, host of The Randy Tobler Show, News Talk STL, every Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Randy Tobler, MD, on that thing called Twitter X. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
All righty. There he goes, Dr. Randy Tobler. One segment left, the Big 80. Not 80s.
80.
The Big 80. When we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Turning a little bit hotter as we head into Wednesday. A low of 72, a high of 89. Light winds, just a 10% chance for a spot shower or thunder shower in the afternoon to about mid-evening. Most stay dry, though. And then Thursday, a little hotter and humid, 93 for the high. A 20% chance for a shower storm during the afternoon to early evening. But that is really going to ramp up late Thursday evening and into the overnight. So Thursday night, Friday morning are best bet for more widespread and potentially some heavy scattered thunderstorms. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Top-rated chiropractic care and more may be found at your one-stop shop known as Comprehensive Chiropractic. Tim Jones here to tell you I'm a patient of Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance, have been for about 2 decades. Dr. Pat Fader, really good friend of mine, he founded and built Comprehensive Chiropractic into the powerhouse that it is today. Multiple docs there, Dr. Benton, Dr. Gorman, they're all fantastic. They've got folks that will work with you on your fitness, on your relaxation. They've got Pilates and yoga classes and other types of classes upstairs in their beautiful studio on the second floor. Huge, gorgeous space, big skylights. Really pleasant way to work out. Personal trainers available there as well, licensed massage therapists, and so much more. They can basically take care of any musculoskeletal ache and pain that you have. I am living proof of that. They have worked on my elbows, knees, and toes, back. I had I'm always pulling a muscle or something because weekend warrior, but I try to work out during the week as well. But it's heavy duty on the weekends, right? Whether it's working out in the yard, clearing brush out, not on the back 40, but in the common areas and getting the weed eaters out and all that stuff, golf, running, whatever it might be. And then Monday morning, lots of aches and pains, right? They can take care of all those things. Pulled a muscle last week. They took care of that. Had some horrible tendonitis a couple years ago. Took care of that. I've referred a ton of people to Comprehensive Chiropractic, and I asked them, I said, did it work for you? Was it good? To a T, yes, yes, and yes. Trusted all my family members there, my friends, my colleagues, and so many others. You should check them out. They're online at cchiropractic.com. They also have a whole line of supplements. They can work with you holistically on your nutritional needs and so much more. It's a really pleasant place to go, too. It's a family-owned establishment, independently owned, locally owned. Dr. Pat Fader and the team are just fantastic at Comprehensive Chiropractic. cchiropractic.com, cchiropractic.com for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Let's take a break.
Good idea.
Hey, Tom, what are you doing on that Amendment 4?
You know we fought for our freedom and rights. I'm not giving them away without a fight.
4 takes them?
That's exactly what 4 does. For over 100 years, Missouri voters have used our constitutional power to act when the politicians refused. I'll be darned if I'm voting to pass on less freedom and power to my kids.
And doesn't 4 also kill majority rule?
Yup. Creates minority rule, or just 5% of the most liberal statewide voters in one Missouri congressional district that block any citizen-led reform, making it nearly impossible to pass common-sense conservative citizen ballot measures.
That's crazy town stuff.
And we've needed our citizen ballot measure power to pass some big conservative stuff, like outlawing tax hikes without voter approval, lobbyist reforms, and term limits for career politicians.
No way I'm letting a tiny fraction of liberals derail our conservative power. I'm no on Amendment 4.
Hard no on 4.
Pay 4 buttons or inch per care governance.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And a friend of mine, Ted Cruz, we fought each other for a while. In fact, somebody said, would you ever appoint him to the United States Supreme Court? Because he's a brilliant lawyer, Ted. I said, well, he's the only one I can think of that's going to get 100 votes. All Republicans will vote for him. All Democrats will vote for him because they want to get him the hell out of the Senate. No, if I was having a hard time with getting the votes, I would appoint Ted Cruz. I get 100%, a guarantee.
550 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and a little bit of truth there. Ted Cruz is not one of the most well-liked members of the Senate, and I can tell you, having worked on his campaign, it's kind of a misnomer because he does kind of come across as kind of aloof, but if you've worked with him and been side by side with him in cars traveling through Iowa and going to town hall, he really has a really good sense of humor, and he's very personable, but it doesn't always come out publicly. So
he's a tough customer, and a lot of people, if they feel like they need that public persona, because politics is a rough sport, and especially at the level he's at. I've met him a couple times and at events, and yeah, he's very business-minded, but at the same time, he's also very friendly and accommodating. There was a big crowd of people at this event, and even though he was moving and having his staff move quickly, he made sure that anybody who wanted a photo with him, they got the photo. He stayed and he even said, okay, did we get everybody? But he's very businesslike.
Yeah.
He's very efficient, and so I could see how people could mix that into being not friendly. But it's like what I used to say about New Yorkers. People say, you lived in New York for 10 years. Wasn't that horrible? I said, no. New Yorkers are actually not bad people. They're just in a big hurry.
Yeah.
And that comes off as rudeness sometimes.
And if you want to hear his sense of humor and his wisdom and his smartness, I would ask you to listen to The Verdict, his podcast. It's very, very informative. And a lot of people have talked about Ted Cruz being put on the Supreme Court, and I've said this many times. That is the absolute last thing that he would want. He has his eyes on the presidency one day, and he knows that if he was ever appointed to the Supreme Court, that dream would be over because he'd be there for the next 25, 30 years because I think he's about 53, 54, 55 maybe. So still a relatively young man, still has political aspirations. Speaking of the president and presidents, guess what, guys? The big 80.
Yeah.
Former President George W. Bush turned 80 yesterday.
Wow.
President Trump turned 80 last month, and President Clinton turns 80 on August 19th. That just blew my mind that Bush and Clinton are 80 years old. I still just see them as young in their 40s or in their 50s when they ran for president, and it's hard for me to fathom that Bill Clinton is 80 years old because he was always he was, all the presidents that we elected up to his time from Nixon have always been kind of older type of people. LBJ, he was a younger president, and I always just had that youthful vision of him. But if you do see him today, you can see he's got the shock of white hair. He's losing it a little bit on top if you get the right angle. And Bill Clinton, 80 years old. I can tell you, Hillary Clinton has not aged well. If you've seen the recent pictures of her, she looks every bit of 80.
Well, and out of those three, Clinton, Bush, and Trump, I would say Bill Clinton is the worst for wear out of those three.
Oh, yeah.
The Clintons in general, I think, they lived life full and hard.
They did. They did.
However, he's still going, 80 years old, despite all the fun that he had. 80, all three of them, 80
That's amazing
years
that
old.
they're 80 years old.
That's really astounding. And George W. Bush, too, I've lost track of how old he was, and the fact that he's now 80
That's crazy.
is amazing because my image of him that I'll forever hold, and, I know his presidency had its ups and downs, especially the second term. Conservatives were not very happy about it. But the image I have him is a positive one, and it's him being handed that bullhorn at 9/11 on the wreckage of the World Trade Center and saying, soon the world will hear from all of us. That's how I vision. And he was probably, in his
50s,
50s maybe?
Yeah.
I thought that was the right guy at the right time who said the right thing.
Iconic.
And it's what the nation needed.
Iconic. Yeah. Hey, did you guys know that there was a new breakout star of the World Cup tournament?
Who
Have
is
you heard
that?
about this?
Who is that?
It's ranch dressing, Tim.
It's ranch dressing.
It's become so popular that the TSA has advised travelers to keep their carry-on condiments to 3.4 ounces or less. A Dallas-Fort Worth airport store is actually selling bottles of ranch alongside World Cup memorabilia. And a Reddit user who identified himself as a European tourist wrote, ranch dressing should be a human right. Who would have known that ranch dressing was so far? I'm not really a big ranch fan. I like ranch Doritos.
It's okay.
But I've never understood. My wife is one of these people that eat pizza with ranch dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you one of those types?
I'm more of a blue cheese guy. Like if I'm ordering,
that doesn't go. Salad dressing does not go with pizza. Come on.
When I order chicken wings.
Okay, yeah.
Chicken wings. They always ask you ranch or blue cheese.
Yeah.
I go blue cheese. If there's some left over, yeah, I can see. I'm kind of with Becky a little bit. I'll use it to mop up with the crust, you know. But on the other hand, do they not have ranch dressing anywhere on the planet?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm so confused by this.
This guy's saying it should be a human right to have ranch dressing.
Oh, don't give him any ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
The left will be all over that. I just think it's fascinating. You know, when we go to other when we go to other countries, and I've been traveled a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They do have different food there, in some countries better than others. But we definitely do have the more delectable stuff that's probably the worst for you.
Exactly.
But it definitely tastes better. I mean, Israel had very fresh food. Everything was very
it's
fresh.
Mediterranean diet.
But
I starved when I was over there.
It is heavy-duty veggies. I had to eat a lot of it to fill up, you know, because they're very, the proteins are very small portions. And the veggies are pretty much everywhere. Now, I love tomatoes and olives and things like that. Probably it's the Italian in me. But I was kind of like, it's good. I know it's healthy. But every once in a while, you want a cheeseburger. You know?
I lost weight, Tim, when we were over there for that week. And I got to tell you, when you guys went on the helicopter trip and I decided not to go, I went down to the hotel bar restaurant. And I had a big, thick steak.
They had them?
At the King David Hotel in the restaurant there. I had a big, thick steak. I had a nice, thick potato. Had a couple of drinks, and I was like, I felt like I was back at home almost. So
they actually had that on the menu. Well, good, good for you.
Yeah, they
good
had a big steak. Hey, you guys know that drugs and human smuggling, that's the big moneymaker for drug cartels. But guess what it is now? They are smuggling gasoline back into Texas. Says more than 1/3 of all the gasoline sold in Mexico may be illicit because the drug smugglers are smuggling gasoline into Mexico. So that surpassed human smuggling and drugs.
Wow.
Gasoline.
It's weird how
it is weird.
Those things happen.
All right, that is the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show for this Tuesday, July 7th. Up next, Larry Connor's USA. And as I said, you've been listening to the T&J Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Bill, that's a big smile for an old politician.
I'm thinking about our plan. It's slick enough to make a lobbyist blush. First, we hoodwink voters with Amendment 5. Tell them it's a tax cut. Once they're hooked, we decide who pays the higher taxes.
So it's not a tax cut plan, and we don't get a say?
Right. Just swaps who pays the tax.